Hi, I'm Dan Krynas, host of the Leader of Learning podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network, just like the show you're listening to now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to Fresh Air at 5, the podcast. I'm your host, Bryon Carpenter. Fresh Air at 5 is my regular attempt to exercise by walking about my neighborhood, to take in podcast content, then reflect in an unedited video, which I finally post to my Twitter channel. This podcast will be a regular collection of the audio from these selfie videos. You can follow me on Twitter at FreshAirAtFive or check out my website, BryonCarpenter.com, for other content I have created and collected.
Hey PLN, happy July 20th, 2021 out here for Fresh Air at 5 this afternoon, not at 5 o'clock, but earlier than that. And this morning, I was gonna go for Fresh Air at 5 walk, take in some content. This past weekend was a makeshift long weekend for us, as my wife had taken some time off, and we had a staycation because our intention to go up country to Sun Peaks to go hiking with our friends and have some fun away from home got squashed because of the forest fires that were threatening that area and affecting travel. And I'm thinking about the forest firefighters that are out there doing their work. And yes, so we ended up canceling our trip and we stayed around. We went for dinner, we went for a hike on Sunday, and yesterday we went for a paddle and a hike nearby. So it was super fun. Took our kayaks out, and I got home last night after our paddle, and I have not paddled a kayak in a very long time, let alone as far as we did. We put 10 kilometers in a kayak on yesterday before we got to where we were hiking, and by the time I got back to the vehicle, I could barely get out of the vehicle. So I didn't get up this morning and walk. I got up, but I couldn't do it. Could not do it. I was exhausted. There's been activities that we've done where I've been absolutely exhausted. Never been as exhausted as I was from what we did yesterday. So if you want to take a look, you can find it on my YouTube channel, or recent videos that I posted there. So you can go take a look at that. But this afternoon, I'm feeling a bit better, so I'm going to go out and put some kilometers on and just get my feet moving, get my body moving, and my mind thinking. So I listened to Lindsay Titus, as Lindsay Titus brought us an episode where she answers and addresses the question, how do we know if it's rest or procrastination? So I wasn't procrastinating this morning. I was resting. And take a listen to her thoughts about being productive, being a content creator, and what does that mean. So this morning, I rested. Lindsay, I rested for me because I deserve it. Me deserves it. I took that time and enjoyed my morning. All right, everybody, have a great day. One more thing for July 20th, 2021, as I'm coming home here and I'm getting close to home, I am thinking more about rest and giving yourself permission to rest. And thank you, Lindsay, for reminding us that we need to take time to rest and figure out what rest means for each of us, right? Because what I call rest is different than what you call rest, and we need to be okay with resting. And procrastinating, that's different. That's related to something else that's going on other than needing to rest. So don't beat yourself up if you're taking a rest. I'm not. I did today, and it was really, really good. I did do some content creation, but that wasn't because I had to, but it was because something that I wanted to, which gives me life and brings me joy. What brings you life and joy that you can do that isn't work? Well, maybe that's rest for you. All right, take care. Have a fabulous day. Okay, bye-bye. Oh, and one more thing on top of that. This is episode 30 of Fresh Air at 5, the podcast. That's 30 weeks of content that I've been putting out and sharing with you and collating into weekly episodes. Been doing it longer than 30 episodes, but it was when I started in January by stitching it all together that it became a podcast. Thanks for listening. Appreciate it. Take a listen and pass it along to others if you haven't done so. Click subscribe, and I look forward to hearing from you if you can. Thanks. Bye-bye. Hey PLN, July 21st, 2021, out here for Fresh Air at 5 this morning. It's a cool 11 degrees Celsius, and it's nice and refreshing. It makes it fresh. So I'm just out walking this morning, and I listened to Got Tech, the podcast, episode 90. So congratulations, gentlemen, on hitting the 90s today with your podcast that I've listened to, and that you have, and you've been doing this, you said faithfully for the past 90 episodes every 2 weeks. So if you're not listening to Got Tech, the podcast, there's 90 great episodes of content that you should go listen to, because you will grow. The one that we just listened to today talked about strategies for selecting ed tech tools and a checklist of things to go over and to evaluate and decide whether you should use an ed tech tool or not. And then beyond that, they had 11 ways that you can be successful in your classroom with getting student content creation done and other tasks and protocols and strategies with QR codes and videos and handbooks, and preparing information ahead of time this summer and start thinking about the rollout in the fall. I am starting to think about the rollout in the fall with my media students and how I am going to share and get them going and make it enthusiastic, because I see them once a week for media design and how they can grow in their understanding of that. So that is my first listen today, and it was fantastic, Nick and Eric, and thanks so much for the work that you are doing and sharing your content. And also go check out their website, Got Tech, or WeGotTech.com, because they have all the resources and much, much more than what you hear about on the podcast on their website. All right, so tell a friend about it, write a review for them, and gents, appreciate you very much. Have a fabulous day in the middle of my summer. Bye-bye. One more thing for July 21st, 2021, Leader of Learning podcast, episode 121 has Dr. Dan Krynas talking with Leon Tynes, a colleague that he's known for many years that has moved out of state, and they talk about STEM education and talk about future-ready teaching and learning and how we need to be preparing ourselves and our students for what students are going to be facing when they step out of our schools and into the job market. Yeah, you look at that and say, well, that's an end of the line. That's the responsibility of the high school teachers to make sure that they are readying students. But along the way, elementary and kindergarten teachers, it starts all the way back there, that we as a system of teaching and educators need to prepare our students by giving them the skills that they will need moving out. Academic knowledge is important to a point, but it is not all that is important. Learning how to communicate and collaborate and create and critically think, the 4 C's, and as Mr. Tim Cavey says, also be curious. The 5th C of curiosity is super important for our students as they move out into the world, the job world, careers, future education, so that they can be critically thinking as they move through these spaces. So thank you, Leon and Dan, for this discussion. Fabulous to hear, and encouraging that, sometimes we think we have a harebrained idea that the rest of the system doesn't get. We need to run with those ideas, because those ideas, if we're thinking about it and being thoughtful, go counter to the culture that we are steeped in and can make a difference. So let's look at what's going on in business. Talk to people in the business sector in the courses that you teach and find out what they need. If you're an English teacher, consider talking to newspaper writers and journalists and see what they do and how they do those things. Have a fabulous day, everybody. Talk to you later. Bye-bye. Hey, PLN, July 22nd, 2021, out here for my Fresh Air at 5 paper delivery. So it's not at 5 a.m. because papers don't arrive at 5, but they arrive after. And I'm out getting some fresh air, helping my daughter out, getting some steps in, and reflecting as I listen to podcasts. And this morning I listened to 3 Questions with George Couros, with guest Maria Diffenbaugh out of Idaho. And thank you, Maria, for sharing part of your story. Looking forward to hearing more of your story on the rest of the Innovators Mindset podcast that's coming out in a little while. So thanks, George. Appreciate it. Great to hear the stories that make us who we are. And we all have a story. So remember that, people. You got a story. All right. Take a listen to Innovators Mindset podcast with George Couros and his 3 question segments, and then the longer podcast later. Have a fab day. Okay, bye. One more thing for July 22nd, 2021, as I'm out now doing other things and walking around a different part of my community. I listened to episode 203 of the Wired Educator podcast as Kelly Croy talks with Dan Butler about leadership and what it means to be a leader in a school and his experience as a leader, and his book that he just wrote that came out in June called Permission to Be Great. And so thank you, Dan and Kelly, for the work that you are doing and sharing your stories. And Dan, it's inspiring to hear you talk about a joyful career that you've had as you are a engaged educator and administrator in the space that you work in. And I agree with you that I believe that relationships and good relationships will drive culture and make things significantly better in the places that we spend a lot of our time, that our students spend a lot of their time as students. So what can we do to grow that? I appreciate that so very much. I like how you take time to talk to your staff on a regular basis and solicit their ideas and have those 5 questions that you ask them. And I like the one question about what's your unfair advantage, and about, like, what are your strengths, and asking it in a different way that goes, well, what's my strengths, right? What's your unfair advantage? What makes you do what you do better than somebody else? All right. Appreciate it. Have a great day. Got another podcast to listen to. Happy Thursday, everybody. Bye-bye. Take a listen to the Wired Educator, episode 203 with Dan Butler and Kelly Croy. Bye. One more thing for Thursday, July 22nd, 2021. Wrapping up this segment and this day's worth of recordings for Fresh Air at 5. I just finished listening to Sons of Technology, episode 67, as Joe Marquez and Kyle Anderson talk about the fastest summer ever. And, there's various reasons why that's happened. We've just come off of a heavy year of teaching that's been emotionally and socially challenged, and the hard work that we have done as teachers. And what I heard as I listened to Sons of Technology episode 67 was Joe and Kyle talk about their passion for learning, and how learning, even in the summertime when it is not related to our profession, can be engaging. Kyle just was working on renos in his house and spent time watching YouTube other people do renos in their house and techniques so that he could save money, do it himself, and be proud of the work that he's done. And Joe, rock solid, man. You're doing a great job with your fitness, and 1,000,000 steps this month, totally attainable. Keep your head down, keep working, grinding, getting at it. It's an easy decision to go, I want to do that, but it's harder to engage and make that happen. So for my story is that I'm doing Fresh Air at 5 every day, and I walk about 6 to 7 kilometers, which is about 4.5 to 5 miles every day. And I put that in. Today I'm out in a different location than my normal, but I'm putting down the kilometers, which is fantastic, feels great, and enjoying this community that I live in. So I just wanted to say thanks, Joe and Kyle, for the work that you're doing. I appreciate it. I am a member of the EdTech Army, and Joe, I'm going to reach out to you to see if I can get some stickers, because you said if I reach out, I'll get some stickers. Oh, and about that Metallica font t-shirt, maybe I can get one of those too. All right, peace out. Have a fab day, everybody. Bye-bye. Hey, PLN, Friday, July 23, 2021. And this morning, as I'm out here for Fresh Air at 5, I got out earlier because later today I got to take my wife and friend out to Horseshoe Bay as they're going on a kayaking adventure for the very first time. So there's a lot of excitement in my home, and I was excited for them. I'm not going, but it's just still a lot of excitement because my wife's going on this adventure with our kayak and her friend, and it's going to be super great as they're going with a group of people to go out onto the ocean. All right, so this morning as I'm listening to Fresh Air at 5, as I'm out for Fresh Air at 5, I listened to the Staff Room podcast with Jay and Pav, the summer series they've got going on, and I like how you guys have slowed down and had more of more interviews and with people this summer. And this morning I listened to your interview with Kevin Leichman as you talked about the work that he has done with his book, The Perfect 10. And that's a curious title, catches you. It makes you think about what's perfect, right? And how he talks about his students that he has worked with in the past that have come back and given feedback, and he has reached out to them to see what they learned and what they got out of high school, because that's so important that we as teachers be reflective on what we're doing. And how do we get that? We get it from the opinions of our students and their thoughts that they have. So that's what we should be doing. And every year at the end of my school year, I ask my students in my face-to-face classes that I teach, how did it go? And I give them a survey. I don't ask all my students because I'm an online teacher, and I don't ask all my students how it went. I get a sense of that through my conversations with them and their grades, the marks they get on their work. But asking your students for their voice and then actually doing something about what they have to say is so important. So thanks, Jay and Pav, for bringing this to the fore, talking about perfectionism, burnout, and I've never thought about student burnout, and that's a great thing to keep in mind. Thanks, Kevin, Jay, and Pav. Happy Friday. Bye. One more thing for Friday, July 23, 2021. Wrapping up Fresh Air at 5, I listened to My EdTech Life, episode 78, as Fonz talks with Jamie Allman. And Jamie, hi, thank you for sharing your passion, your background, where you've come from, your desire to see kids cared for, and the work that you're doing now with the Juice educational platform. And I maybe got that wrong. I actually just got to that point in the episode, so I haven't completely finished the episode, but I will later today. Had to get this recording done. But what I heard of the first part of it is that you come from a family of learners, and you may not come from a family directly of career teachers, and I see why you differentiate yourself from your family in that way by calling yourself a career teacher. But just the fact that your family is innovative, they are creative, and so are you. And I see that, I'm inspired by that, and I like watching creative people do what they do. We don't have to be creative in fine arts and music and dancing to be called creative, but we are creative as educators and in our space. Anybody can be a creator wherever they are. I'm a creator making creations right now, making connections with other people so that we can grow and keep on developing this thing called education. I will finish listening to this episode in a little bit as I take my wife and friend in to their kayaking trip in Vancouver. Happy day. Bye-bye.
As my one word for 2021 is appreciate, I appreciate you giving me a listen as I've created this podcast experience for you. It's a unique Blinkist or Coles Notes version of the content I take in, like a highlight reel, so that you can hopefully find other interesting podcasts you may not have considered before. I've recorded the specific podcast episodes in the show notes for your learning convenience. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes. And if you enjoy this podcast and its format, share it with someone else. Tweet about your experience or give it a review on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen to podcasts. Fresh Air at 5 can also be found on Voice Ed Radio. Your voice is right here, and on the Education Podcast Network, podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. I hope you have a fantastic day and get some fresh air before the day is out, and take care of yourself because you're worth it.